talk to him about odds and numbers.
Home office. Oh, look at this. One Mr. Nick Kalikas, Circa Sports, joining us here on the Bostonian versus the Book. Happy Friday, Nick. How are you?
Thank you, fellas. Glad to join you as always.
Good
Listen,
to see you, sir.
I'm taking Dave to the fight tomorrow night. We're going and covering this for USA 285. We're all fired up. This card's awesome. I can't wait to hear what your thoughts are on some of these fights, but just overall, what are you guys expecting from an action perspective down at Circa?
Sick. It's crazy already. We're getting a lot of requests for over the limit bets. We have a lot of new people coming in, opening accounts just to bet on UFC 285. It's insane. The handle's off the charts already. So I'm expecting this to be one of the biggest handles overall that we've had since I've been to Circa.
Nicky, first of all, good to see you, brother. We'll be getting together soon here after this calm settles down after March, because March is such a busy month in the book. This is a busy card, and we'll get to the Jones fight in a second. What are the other fights? We got a bunch of people in here that follow us and watch the show. What fights should people be watching at or looking at from just one, an entertainment spot, but two, maybe like a little silent little thing maybe that they could look at aside? I'm not asking you to give picks. I know you don't do that. But what fights are we looking at below the main event that you're like going, this is going to be good, this is going to be good, this you should watch?
Well, first of all, I do give picks, but you have to check out UFC on the line, of course. Or
Tell them where to find you, Nicky. Tell them.
Or the Gambler's Perspective podcast, both on UFC Fight Pass. So
nice job.
My official picks are available on those spots there.
Excellent.
But yeah, like you said, there's a lot of people that maybe are unknown about some of the other fights on this card. Jeff Neal versus Shavkat Rakhmonov is one right there. If you're looking at the price, Rakhmonov is minus 400, minus 500 out there against a legit contender in Jeff Neal. You don't see that price too often with a solid fighter on the other side. That fight's going to be fireworks because you're getting Shavkat Rakhmonov getting tested by a legit fighter this time around. So there's high expectations coming in for him, potential champion, right? And now we're getting him again with a legit test in front of him. If he goes out there and destroys Jeff Neal, man, this guy is definitely on the right path to get that eventual title shot. So it's Jeff Neal versus Rakhmonov for me. There's all sorts of fights. Even the co-main event, I should say, the title fight between Shevchenko and Grasso is going to be a really good one too. I think it's going to be far more competitive than the current line indicates.
That line is minus 840, Nicky. What the hell are you talking about? That's going to be a competitive fight. Are you serious?
Grasso's tough.
Yeah, well, you're getting the pound-for-pound GOAT, I think, in the female division, which is Shevchenko, right? I know a lot of people will argue it's Nunes. Nunes has a couple wins against Shevchenko, but in my opinion, still, the size matters a little bit. Shevchenko is just a better quality fighter. So if you're getting the best female fighter on the planet, you're always going to have a high tax or have to pay a high tax in that situation, right? But I still think that a lot of times those lines are a little bit too high or a little bit too much, and we're getting these contenders out there, these challengers that are ready for the part. And I think Grasso's improved so much that she can be competitive in this spot for sure.
Brunson Duplessis, what do you make? I mean, the card's stacked. It's top to bottom. There's so many good fights. Brunson's a fighter that we've seen headline events. Duplessis is a guy who's coming up. Obviously, he's a talented fighter. The UFC sees big things for him. What do you make of that fight?
That's another one that's kind of a head scratcher because we know Brunson is kind of a gatekeeper at this point, right? If you can get by Derek Brunson, then you're on your way to a title shot as well. That's how good that guy is. His wrestling's off the charts. Duplessis on the other side of it, though, man, he's coming off a pretty solid win. The destruction of Darren Till, which you don't see happen all that often, right? But Duplessis is still one of these guys that there's a little bit of a head scratcher with him because of his conditioning, his cardio. He does seem to kind of fade as the fight goes on. He's a little wild, a little aggressive. But he does, no matter what. It seems like he could go 5 rounds if he needed to, even if he fights tired. So this guy's a special talent as well. He's got the finishing ability on the ground or on the feet. So this is a good spot for him to kind of get in here, get a quality win over Derek Brunson, and then prove himself that he's a legit contender as well.
Nicky, every day we do this show, and we have tremendous guys and girls in the chat telling us stuff. Jay Park just came in and said Neal missed weight. Oh, by 4 pounds. Oh, what the hell happens in the book, Nicky? Tell them what a headache this has just become, not just for you, but for everyone else that has bets. What's the procedure? What happens in the book when a guy misses weight on the day before the fight?
Well, it all depends because sometimes that will react different ways, meaning that if a fighter misses weight, a lot of times they're going to think, oh, that fighter's out of shape. He's not taking the camp serious. We're going to fade this fighter. and go the other way, right? So you do see some action come against that side. But in a situation like this as well, sometimes that extra weight can help you. So if that person's maybe purposely, not making weight, trying to kind of overexert himself to get that extra couple pounds off, I mean, it could be an advantage as well. So we see it going both ways. For me, though, personally, I mean, I welcome some of the favorite money because we have some sharp action hitting that Neal side at circa. If you could see right now where we're at, the line is kind of relatively low. We're at minus 425 on Rachmanov, where the market out there is closer to 500. So we've taken some sharp, heavy action on the underdog. So we're going to kind of let this sit here because I know the action is going to come in back on the favorite here with straight bets and, of course, parlays as well. So for us, we're actually in a good spot taking that early dog money because the favorite money is going to come now for sure.
4 pounds basically means he quit hours before weighing in.
Yep.
He just said he just said forget it. So it may have been intentional.
Both of you, is the fight canceled?
No, he loses 20%. No, he loses 20% of his purse automatically to the other fighter.
Right. It's up. Usually it's up to the other fighter and their camps, right? If they decide, okay, this guy's 4 pounds over, you still want to take the fight. And a lot of times these guys are warriors. They're not going to deny the fight or say, oh, no, we're not taking the fight. But they do get more money because their opponent missed weight. Right.
Yeah. So it's a financial penalty for missing weight. And it's a professional thing too. I mean, it's just if you're a pro fighter, you don't miss weight by 4 pounds. That's so much that it almost feels intentional that Neal has done that. Cody Garbrandt's on this card. Cody Garbrandt, when I moved to Vegas, Cody Garbrandt was one of the first fighters I ever interviewed. So I've been a fan of his for a long time. He's lost 4 or 5 fights. This is his comeback tour here. Do you feel how much does Cody have left in the tank? Obviously, the right hand is what everyone knows him for. I don't know much about Trevin Jones, but I just know that he's coming off of 3 straight losses. So is this a way of building up Cody Garbrandt to get him back into the minds of UFC fans, or is this his last fight with the company?
That's kind of what the scenario is. You're right. If he loses this fight, he's probably going to get cut and released from the roster. Jones was actually off the roster and he got brought back to replace a fighter coming into this spot here too as well. So he's getting another shot. Like you said, he's lost a few fights as well. So this is a situation where both of these guys desperately need to win. But of course, Garbrandt, you're talking about not too long ago. I mean, the guy was a champion, right? So it's a shame because it is his chin that's letting him down in these fights. He gets in these firefights and he just can't absorb the punishment. But offensively, the talent is there. It always has been. So that's what you're getting with Garbrandt. If his chin holds up, he's going to beat most of these guys, right? But the issue here for me is, man, Jones, if he could do anything, he could crack, right? So Jones is one of those fighters that could possibly come in here. And even if he's losing the fight, just laying on that chin and get Garbrandt out of here. So for me, I wouldn't touch this fight. I would stay away from it. It's probably going to be exciting, and there's probably going to be a finish either way. But Garbrandt desperately needs a win. He's obviously the higher caliber fighter as far as even, roster space, whatever. If he gets back on track and gets his act together, it starts being a little bit more consistent, he could potentially get another title shot, right? That's how popular this guy is and how talented he is. But if he loses this fight, he could very well be looking for a job at the PFL or Bellator, honestly.
Divorce could cause problems. Divorce is tough.
Nicky, a lot of people, we've had you on the show before, and a lot of people that like to bet UFC love the parlays. They love the favorite parlays. We started just a couple days ago a little money line favorite parlay in the NBA
later today,
and this guy loves it. And plus, he loves to involve anything Boston because they win every day too. Is this a chalk money line parlay thing here? This card? I mean, when you look at some of these, do you just string 3 or 4 together and go, okay, and then they shoot them through and you got to check them for approval and you go, holy shit, what are you people doing?
It happens all the time. Yeah, especially on a card like this. You're going to have all the chalky favorites parlayed into stuff with, like you said, with the Boston sports teams. Those are popular teams right now. I mean, they're winning. They're successful. So, you'll see a lot of Celtics parlays. Of course, Bruins parlays coming in there with UFC fights. So we're seeing a lot of this. And honestly, most of these favorites, chalky favorites, should obviously come through as well. So you're in a safe spot if you want to add like Bo Nickel, for example. I mean, you're not going to get much value left. I mean, I opened at minus 1,900. The market was around minus 1,500. But yeah, he's not going to lose that fight, man.
Minus 2,200 now on him. But he says he wants to headline. So like when a guy is this heavy of a favorite, he's a 3-time national championship wrestler. Tons of buzz on the underground. You put him on a pay-per-view card. He's the first fight on the pay-per-view night, trying to bump him up. He says he's going to be the first fighter to headline a card at Allegiant Stadium. That's what he thinks of himself from a projection standpoint. What do you make of him? Is he going to be a superstar here for the company?
Yes, I really do believe he is going to be a superstar. He's just his demeanor when you meet him in person and when you talk to him, it's so calm, so professional. He's almost got that cocky arrogance about him,
Mhm.
right? But
Mm.
for a good reason, man. I mean, this guy, he's getting fast tracked for for the right reasons as well because his wrestling's off the charts. His submission game, he's a sponge. He's absorbing. It's not just the all-American caliber national titles that comes to the table, what he brings from the wrestling aspect. When he's in the gym, he's absorbing all the jiu-jitsu. He's absorbing the striking. He's picking everything up like a sponge. This guy is improving in all areas of the game right now. And honestly, as crazy as it sounds, you put him in there. I know it might sound a little bit too soon, but stylistically, you put him in there with a guy like Adesanya. You put him in there with a guy like Pereira, the champion right now. This guy's a bad matchup for those guys. He gets them down to the ground. He can't have a lot of success. So already you can see this guy being a problem for some of the champions or title contenders, towards the top stylistically. So yes, this guy is the part. I mean, he knows kind of where he's at. That's what I like about him as well. Meaning that his confidence and his arrogance, I mean, he could possibly fill that stadium if he gets to that point, right? He just needs to keep on the right track to keep on rolling off these wins and getting these finishes early on and not maybe getting more than he could chew right away, right? So the UFC's doing a good job, I think, setting him up with the right opponents right now. Then they will give him that challenge that he needs to get over that top.
Last one for me, Nikki, before we let you go, because I know you got to get down there and get the shift put in and all this other stuff you got to do. And hopefully we'll see you on Saturday if you can get over to the joint. John Jones and Gone is the main event. I learned that when somebody's really good at something this week, I learned they're called a bucket. Okay. And that's why I got the bucket hat on. And I know you know all about the old Cool J from back in the day when he wore the bucket. Is Jones a bucket? Is he gonna is this done? Is this because they're betting this thing. Who in the hell knows what you're gonna close this thing? Because it just keeps going up. It opened. I just checked the line history at the joint. 40. It's up to 80. It's going to be $2 at some point tomorrow until somebody comes in. It's done, right? It's Jones. That's it. Done?
Nah, I don't think so. Free Money Jones? Are you kidding me? Look, I understand the narrative. I know that this guy, I mean, one of the greatest of all times. There's no doubt about it. Look at his record. Look who he's beaten, right? And that only blemish is from a DQ for crying out loud. So this guy is an undefeated fighter like Khabib. So he's in that upper echelon. He is GOAT caliber status, whatever you want to call him. Okay. But if you look back at his last several fights, this guy has not been performing as a GOAT, meaning that to me, he looks like he's a kind of a declined fighter. I mean, a lot of people might say, look, he's not motivated. He's kind of been running through the division for a long time. So what's his motivation? That's why he wasn't performing at his peak. I'm not so sure about that. I don't trust my visual that I've seen in his last few fights. And if you go back looking at the guys that he's beaten, like even Dominic Reyes in his last fight, by the way, I had a bet on Dominic Reyes around plus 400 that should have cashed. That was a coin flip type of fight, man. So, but again, let me just say this. I'm not intentionally trying to fade John Jones. If there's a matchup that I think is going to give him a problem, then I think there's some value there. And that's exactly what I thought with Reyes, and it worked out that way. Now, this is another spot. Gone, I think he's a tougher matchup than Reyes was, right? If you look at Anthony Smith, all these guys that John Jones has beat as of late, Gone's another level, man, and he's a heavyweight. So there's a lot of question marks coming in here. Again, all of us want to see John Jones at his prime. We want to see him go in here and basically dominate and prove to the world that he's the greatest heavyweight now on the roster, right? Or in the world, because a lot of people, if Gane goes out there, here's another side issue. I'm getting off track a little bit, but a lot of people are going to think that if Gane wins this fight and Gane beat him, he's not the real champion, right? But that fight was close as well, right? Just a little tweak or two, Gane could have beat Ngannou as well. He lost that fight legitly, but it was relatively a coin flip type of fight as well. So a lot of people, the narrative is going to be, oh, Ngannou's still the true champion if he wins this fight. If Jones wins the fight, then a lot of people are going to believe he is the rightful champion, especially if he goes out there and really dominates on the ground like a lot of people think he might be able to do, right? So everything's lining up for Jones needing this win, getting the win. It's going to be great for the company, of course, because, again, he's that star, huge star, whatnot. But even if he doesn't pull this fight off, I think Gane's level of respect is going to climb. But you're always going to have that in the back of people's minds saying, hey, I mean, he lost to Ngannou. Is he the real champion? So the narrative I don't like. I think the real champion coming out of this will be the number one fighter in the world in the heavyweight division, no matter what. Ngannou chose to leave the UFC. I think the guy's a beast. I'm disappointed that he did so. But with all that being said, the winner here is going to be the number one fighter. And I think Gane has a legit shot to pull this off.
So I agree. And I'm going to let this thing run to see how much plus money we see coming back on it. But the other market that I'm curious to get your take on before I let you go is the total rounds. It's 4.5 for a heavyweight fight. This is rare. We rarely ever see a 4.5 championship fight or not.
Over minus 150 too,
Yeah.
Perrault.
Okay. So this is a rare number in terms. Normally, heavyweight championships, heavyweight fights in general, have 1.5 to 2.5 from a round perspective, 5 or not. This is juiced to the over at 4.5. 2 of the last 3 fights for Cyril Gane have gone inside the distance. Derek Lewis knocked him out. Tuivasa knocked him out. The Ngannou fight went to the cards where he lost it. Average fight time for Gane is 16 minutes. Average fight time for Jones at light heavyweight was 15 minutes. Does this fight really go into the 4th round? Are we really seeing this thing go all the way, maybe to the cards as a heavyweight championship fight?
I think we can, yes.
Wow.
Because I think the way that Gane goes about fighting, right? He's not really the guy coming after the knockout right away. He doesn't have that one punch, destroy you type of power like an Ngannou does, right? So he's more of a point fighter, pick your spots, be precise, accurate, and then the knockout will come with accumulation of shots, as the fight progresses. So Jones is tough enough to probably basically get outpointed on the feet, take a little bit of damage, but maybe not get knocked out, if that makes sense, right? So if Gane wins this fight, I think he probably does win by decision more so than KO as it goes. Now, the only question mark is how dominant Jon Jones will be on the ground if he does get this fight to the ground. I think that's where it goes under. So it's almost correlated for me personally, Jon Jones and under, Gane and over. So with that said, does the price seem right with Jon Jones? The favorites, or the total saying it's going over, right? Over 4.5 rounds. So this line is not correlated properly, in my opinion, a little bit. This line should be a little bit tighter. That tells you something as well, right? But I do think that this has a shot. Even Jon Jones maybe not getting the finish on the ground. There's another way he could win, obviously, inside the distance, which would be on the scorecards as well. Maybe grinding out against the cage, getting a takedown with Gane, getting back up. We could see it kind of playing out that way as well. So it could hit the cards. I think more than likely this does go all 5, and it's going to be a competitive decision.
Do we know much about Gane's ability to prevent submissions? He's never been submitted in the UFC. I mean, if it goes to the ground, does Jon Jones win by submission?
He definitely has a definitive advantage on the ground, even in submissions. But here's the thing. I think Gane's ground game is a lot better than everybody realizes, a lot better than people think as well. Not just the takedown defense, but his jiu-jitsu awareness as well. So I don't think it's going to be an easy submission victory for Jon Jones. I think maybe if he gets positioned and he's able to land some ground and pound and stuff like that, maybe get, flip Gane to his back and maybe sink in a choke or something like that. But Jones definitely has a submission advantage. I just don't think it's as big as everybody thinks on the ground.
LL Cool J said, Mama said knock you out.
Not gonna
Nikki,
happen.
you knocked it out the park today. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to see you. We'll be getting together very, very soon.
Enjoy the fights, my friend. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate
Nick
it. Have fun
Kalikas
with the fights.
at Fight Odds on Twitter from Circa Sports joining us here on BVB. How about that?